friends, thanks for joining me for a story. Let's read this one. It's called Little Miss Bossy by Roger Hargreaves. On Monday, little Miss Bossy went for a walk. She met Mr. Nosy. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Mind your own business," she retorted. On Tuesday, she met Mr. Noisy. He was singing noisily, of course. "Shut up," she told him. On Wednesday, she met Mr. Happy. He was smiling, as usual. "Take that silly smile off your face," she said. As you can imagine, little Miss Bossy wasn't very popular, to say the least. Now, little did Miss Bossy realise, but somebody had seen her bossing Mr. Nosy about. And that somebody had seen her bossing Mr. Noisy about. And that self-same somebody had seen her bossing Mr. Happy about. The wizard, whose name incidentally was Wilfred, went home thinking, "Something really ought to be done about that Miss Bossy," he thought to himself as he walked along. When he arrived home, he went straight to his library and took down a large red book from a bookshelf. It was rather dusty, as it hadn't been read for some time. "Now let's see," he said to himself as he settled into an armchair. He turned to page 304. At the top of the page it said, "How to Stop People Being Bossy." Wilfred the wizard read the page very carefully, shut the book, put it back on the bookshelf and grinned. A particularly wizardy sort of grin. The day after, which was Thursday, little Miss Bossy met somebody who was fast asleep. As usual, Mr. Lazy. "Wake up," she said bossily, and prodded him in the tummy. "Ouch!" protested Mr. Lazy. But behind Miss Bossy, Wilfred the wizard, who had been following her, said something too, under his breath. A wizardy word he'd learned from page 304. And do you know what happened? Suddenly, as if by magic, which is true, there appeared on Miss Bossy's feet a pair of boots. One minute they weren't there, the next minute they were. Miss Bossy looked down in alarm. They were magic boots, and being magic boots, they could speak to each other. "Hello, left," said the right boot. "Hello, right," said the left boot. "Ready when you are," said right. "Right," said left, and off they set. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Faster and faster, marching poor little Miss Bossy along. Little Miss Bossy couldn't do a thing about it. Mr. Lazy was much amused. "Well done, Wilfred," he chuckled. Wilfred winked a wizardy wink. The boots marched little Miss Bossy for 5 miles. She was exhausted. "Ready, left," said right boot. "Ready," replied left. "Attend," said right. "Shin," said left. And they came to a halt. Little Miss Bossy was quite out of breath. She tried to take off her boots, but it was impossible. Along came Wilfred. Those, said Wilfred, pointing to the boots, are only for people who are too bossy. Make them go away at once, cried Miss Bossy, stamping her foot. Well, at least she tried to stamp her foot, but the boot wouldn't. We're out of stamps, chuckled Right. Left giggled. You will do as I say, shouted Miss Bossy. Ready when you are, said Right. Right away, replied Left. Quick march! And off they set again. Left, right, left, right, left, right, for 10 miles. And then they stopped again. And along came Wilfred. Make these stupid boots go away, shouted Miss Bossy. Only if you say the magic word, replied Wilfred. Miss Bossy thought, and thought, and thought again. Please, she said. That's better, smiled Wilfred. And he said the wizardy word again under his breath from page 304. The boots disappeared, as if magic. Now then, said Wilfred sternly, wagging his finger. Stop being bossy, or you know what will happen. Miss Bossy nodded miserably. Very well, smiled Wilfred, and went. And do you know something? From then on until now off, little Miss Bossy was a changed person. Not bossy at all. And you know why, don't you? You know what she's afraid of. Bossy boots! I hope you'll join me for another story. My First Words book. And it's Lift the Flap book, so we're going to have a lot of fun. What is this? Flying high. That's a balloon. It's a hot air balloon. What keeps you dry when it rains? What is this thing called? Umbrella. Which animal goes woof and begins with the letter D? What is this? A dog. What kind of flower is this? A rose. What are these amusing birds? What are these ones called? Penguins. This creature's name begins with a B. Beetle. I'm very small. I'm a... What's this one? A mouse. Squeak, squeak. I roar and I prowl. I'm a lion. I fly high in the sky. I'm an eagle. What is this juicy fruit called? What's this one called? It's a strawberry. That was really good. Thank you so much for watching and learning words with me, and I'll see you for another story. Friends, let's read this book together. Little Miss Chatterbox by Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Chatterbox talked more than a lot. She talked all the time, day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year in and year out. She never stopped. She didn't know it, but she even talked in her sleep. She had a brother. I bet you can guess what his name was, can't you? That's right, Mr. Chatterbox. She looks a bit like him, don't you think? You should have heard them when they got together. You couldn't get a word in edgeways, or sideways, or anyways. Have you ever heard about somebody being able to talk the hind leg off of a donkey? Well, Mr. Chatterbox could talk both hind legs off a donkey, and his sister could talk the hind leg off an elephant. Now, this story is about the time little Miss Chatterbox decided to get herself a job, which she did in a bank in Happy Land. At 10 o'clock one morning, Mr. Happy strolled into the Happy to Lend You bank in the middle of Happy Town. He took out his checkbook, wrote a check, and went to the counter. Behind the counter, on her first morning at work, stood little Miss Chatterbox. She smiled at Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy smiled back. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "Well," said little Miss Chatterbox, taking a deep breath. For the time of year, it is a good morning, but not as good morning as we had yesterday, and I dare say tomorrow morning will be an even better morning, but it's quite a good morning for a Monday morning, and she went on and on and on until it was time for the bank to shut. Mr. Happy was still standing there with his mouth open in amazement. He'd been there for hours. "And now," continued little Miss Chatterbox, "it's time for the bank to shut and time for me to go home. So goodbye and nice talking to you." And she went home, leaving poor Mr. Happy without any money. The following morning she was fired. She got herself another job in a restaurant, the Eat-a-lot. It was Tuesday morning, and at midday Mr. Greedy walked into the restaurant and sat himself down at his usual corner table. He always ate there on Tuesdays because that was the day they served extra large portions. The waitress came up to take his order. "What's the soup of the day?" Mr. Greedy asked the waitress. "Well," said little Miss Chatterbox, for she was the waitress, "the soup of the day is tomato, but we also have other soups on the menu, such as oxtail and vegetable, and chicken noodle, but we have lots of other things to start with, such as," and she went on and on and on until midnight. Mr. Greedy was still sitting there listening in amazement. He'd been there for 12 hours listening. "And now," continued little Miss Chatterbox, "it's time for the Eat-a-lot restaurant to shut and for me to go home. So goodbye and nice talking to you." And she went home, leaving poor Mr. Greedy feeling rather empty. The next morning, she was fired. The same thing happened all week long. On Thursday morning, she was fired from her job as an assistant in the hat shop. Miss Splendid went into the shop to buy herself a new hat, but she couldn't. "Oh, madam, I've just the hat for you, and I know you're going to love it because it's pink, and pink is your colour," and it was all talk and no hat. On Friday morning, she was fired from her job as a secretary for Mr. Uppity. Mr. Uppity, incidentally, was the richest man in the world. I just thought you'd like to know. But poor Mr. Uppity didn't make any money the day that little Miss Chatterbox was working for him. Oh, no. Oh, Mr. Uppity, I've never worked in an office before, and isn't it exciting? And would you like a cup of coffee? And are you as rich as everybody says you are? And it was all talk and no work. But this story has a happy ending because at the very end of that week, little Miss Chatterbox managed to find herself a job that suited her down to the ground and up to the sky. That Saturday evening, Mr. Chatterbox was at home in Chatterbox Cottage, which is where he lived. Mr. Chatterbox was cross because his watch had stopped and he had arranged to meet little Miss Sunshine at 7 o'clock and he had no idea what the time was. So he decided to telephone the speaking clock to find out what time it was. He dialed the number. At the third stroke, it will be 6:25 and 15 seconds. Little Miss Chatterbox took a deep breath. Pip, pip, pip. At the third stroke, it will be 6:25 and 20 seconds. Pip, pip, pip. That's funny, thought Mr. Chatterbox to himself. That sounds just like my sister. I hope you'll join me for another story. Hi friends, would you like to read this book with me? This one's called Little Miss Lucky by Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Lucky lived on top of a hill in Horseshoe Cottage. One evening, after supper, she went to bed with a book she had bought that morning. She loved to read, and the place she loved to read the most was in bed. Do you like reading in bed? Lots of people do. It was a cold and windy winter's night outside, but little Miss Lucky snuggled down under the blankets and was as warm and cozy as could be. She opened the book and started to read the first page. But as she did so, there was a knock on the front door of Horseshoe Cottage. Knock, knock, knock. Oh, bother, she thought to herself. Who can that be at this time of night? Knock, knock, knock. There it was again. She put her book down, got out of bed, and went downstairs to see who was there. Little Miss Lucky unlocked the door and opened it, but there was nobody there. She peered outside. Nobody. She went outside. Nobody. Then, suddenly, there was a huge gust of wind and the door banged behind her. Bang! She nearly jumped out of her skin. She tried to open the door, but it had locked itself and she couldn't open it. Oh dear, she gasped. What am I to do? I wonder why this story is called Little Miss Lucky. She ran around Horseshoe Cottage to see if she could get in through the back door. But as she did so, there was an even bigger gust of wind. A really huge, enormous, gigantic gust of wind. It was so strong that it lifted little Miss Lucky off her feet and up into the air. And up. Help, she cried. Somebody help. But her little voice was lost in the whistling of the wind. Higher and higher she was taken up and up into the night. But then, just as suddenly as it had started, the wind stopped. And there was little Miss Lucky high in the air. She started to fall down and down. I wonder why this story is called Little Miss Lucky. Faster and faster she fell towards the ground. Oh! She landed in a haystack in the corner of a field. Little Miss Lucky gasped for breath and felt to see if she had broken any bones. But the haystack had cushioned her fall, and apart from feeling very frightened, she was all right. She climbed down from the haystack and ran as fast as she could across the field, looking for somebody to help her, looking for anybody to help her. It was very dark, and little Miss Lucky could scarcely see where she was going. There was a tree in the middle of the field, and little Miss Lucky tripped over one of its roots. It was then she heard the voice. "Hello," it said. "Who have we here?" Little Miss Lucky shivered. "Who's there?" she whispered. "I," chuckled the voice, "am the midnight tree." And as little Miss Lucky looked at the tree, she saw that it had a face. Not the sort of face you would like to see on a cold, dark, windy winter's night. I wonder why this story is called Little Miss Lucky. The tree grinned and reached out one of its branches. "Oh!" Little Miss Lucky jumped to her feet and ran away as fast as ever her legs could carry her, as far away from that tree as possible. But as she ran, she heard a noise behind her. Thud, thud, thud. She looked over her shoulder and couldn't believe her eyes. Thud, thud, thud. The tree was chasing her. She ran faster than ever. Thud, thud, thud. But the tree was getting closer. Thud, thud, thud. Little Miss Lucky stopped and shut her eyes tight. Thud. I wonder why this story is called Little Miss Lucky. Thud. Little Miss Lucky opened her eyes wide. The book she had been reading in bed had slipped from her fingers and fallen onto the bedroom floor. Thud. She had fallen asleep reading her book. It had all been a dream. A dream. No knock at the door, no terrible wind, no midnight tree. A dream. And now you know why this story is called Little Miss Lucky, don't you? I hope you'll join me for another story. I love Dad with the very hungry caterpillar. You are easy to talk to. See, there's the daddy birdie and the baby birdie. And look, there's the little, very hungry caterpillar. And you're fun to play with. There's the daddy seal and the baby seal. And can you show me where the hungry caterpillar is? Yes, it's on the daddy seal's back. You can be silly. Is that a daddy being silly? Look at the hungry caterpillar looking at him. But you're still cool. There's the baby polar bear and the daddy polar bear. And look, the very hungry caterpillar. I think he's on every page. There it is, with all the stars. Even when I am feeling prickly. Look. And what do we call this? It's a hedgehog. And I bug you, the ladybug dad and the ladybug mum and all the baby ladybugs or other insects and the hungry caterpillar. You are always there. Yeah. Hungry caterpillar there, and this is a daddy seahorse and a baby seahorse. Wow. To catch me when I fall. The daddy bear, the baby bear in the tree, and look, there's the hungry caterpillar. That's why I love you, Dad. Look, the hungry caterpillar again. I hope you'll join me for another story. Hi friends, let's read this book together. This is Mr. Jelly by Roger Hargreaves. Poor Mr. Jelly was frightened of everything and anything. At the slightest little thing he would quiver and tremble and shake and turn to jelly. So it's not really surprising to find that Mr. Jelly lives as far away from anybody that he can find. In the middle of a wood, miles and miles from anywhere. This story begins one morning when Mr. Jelly was asleep. It was a beautiful autumn morning. The sun was shining. The leaves on the trees had turned to a glorious red, and the wind stirred gently in the treetops. A single leaf fell gently from the tree right outside Mr. Jelly's house and quietly brushed against his bedroom window as it fell. Mr. Jelly awoke with a start. "What's that terrible noise?" he cried. "Oh heavens, the house is falling down! Oh, disaster! It's an earthquake! Oh, calamity! It's the end of the world!" And he hid under the bedclothes, trembling with fright. After an hour, by which time he realized that his house wasn't falling down, and there wasn't an earthquake, and the world wasn't coming to an end, Mr. Jelly peeped out from under the bedclothes. "Phew," he said, "thank goodness for that." And he got up and went downstairs to make his breakfast. Mr. Jelly poured some cornflakes out of a packet onto a plate. Then he poured some milk onto the cornflakes. Then he went to the cupboard to get some sugar. Snap, crackle, pop went the cornflakes in the milk. "Oh, goodness gracious," cried Mr. Jelly, diving under the kitchen table. "Oh dear, I hear guns! Oh calamity, it's war!" But of course it wasn't. And of course Mr. Jelly eventually came out from under the table and ate up all his cornflakes. After breakfast, Mr. Jelly thought that he'd go for a walk. He was walking through the woods which surround his house when a worm poked its head out of the ground. "Morning," said the worm cheerfully to Mr. Jelly. Mr. Jelly nearly jumped out of his skin. "What?" he shouted. "Who's there?" And then he saw the worm. "Oh, good heavens, it's a snake! Oh dear, a man-eating snake! Oh, calamity, I'm going to be eaten alive!" And he jumped up into a tree. "What a performance," commented the worm, and went back into his hole. After an hour, Mr. Jelly felt brave enough to climb down from the tree and continue his walk. Eventually, he came out of the other side of the wood and into a field. Mr. Jelly glanced nervously around. It was an empty field. Or was it? In the long grass in the middle of the field, unseen by Mr. Jelly, there was a tramp enjoying a sleep in the autumn sunshine. Mr. Jelly picked his way cautiously through the grass. The tramp, fast asleep, snored. "What was that?" shrieked Mr. Jelly. "It's a lion. I heard it growl. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, dear me, a lion. A huge lion with enormous teeth. A huge lion with sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two. A huge ferocious lion with enormous sharp teeth that's going to bite me in two, if not three." And he fainted. All this commotion awakened the tramp, who yawned, stretched, sat up, and saw Mr. Jelly lying on the ground beside him. "Oh dear," he said, for he was a kindly tramp. "Oh dear," and he picked up Mr. Jelly and placed him gently in the palm of his hand. Mr. Jelly came to and sat up, rubbing his eyes. Then he saw the tramp's face looking at him. "Oh, disaster!" he screamed. "Oh, calamity! It's a giant, an ogre! Oh, gracious! He's going to have me for breakfast." My, said Tramp gently. "You are a nervous little chap, aren't you? What's your name?" "Mr. Jelly," stammered Mr. Jelly. "I used to be nervous like you," said the tramp, "but I learned how not to be. Would you like me to tell you the secret?" Mr. Jelly quivered and shook and said, Yes, please." "It's very simple," continued the tramp. "All you have to do is count up to 10, and you'll find that whatever's frightening you isn't quite so frightening after all." Then he sat Mr. Jelly gently down on the grass. "Remember," he said to Mr. Jelly, "count to 10. And off he went. Mr. Jelly thought that would be a very good idea if he went home immediately. Back across the field he went. Back through the woods he went. He was walking through the woods when he stepped on a little twig. Snap went the twig. Mr. Jelly jumped twice his own height in terror. "What was that?" he shrieked. "That's terrible snapping noise. It's a tree falling down that's going to crush me to pieces. Oh, calamity! It's a crocodile hiding in the bushes, snapping its teeth. Oh, disaster! It's..." And then he stopped. He took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, he said, and saw that what had gone snap was a twig. A silly old twig. "Phew," he said. Mr. Jelly had almost reached his house when a leaf drifted gently down from a tree on top of him. "Help! Police! Murder!" he screamed. "I'm being kidnapped! Oh, calamity! It's ruffians with guns! They're going to..." And then he stopped. He took a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then he saw what had fallen on him was only a leaf. Nothing but a leaf. A stupid red leaf. It works, he said out loud in wonderment. And do you know, it did work. After that moment, Mr. Jelly became a changed man. Well, you can see that by looking at him, can't you? And he never shrieks or shouts or screams or quivers or shakes or trembles anymore. And he never hides under the bedclothes anymore. Well, not very often anyway. I hope you'll join me for another story. Friends, would you like to read this book with me? It's called The Saggy Baggy Elephant. A happy little elephant was dancing through the jungle. He thought he was dancing beautifully. 1, 2, 3, kick. But whenever he went 1, 2, 3, his big feet pounded so they shook the whole jungle. And whenever he went kick, he kicked over a tree or a bush. The little elephant danced along, leaving wreckage behind him, until one day he met a parrot. "Why are you shaking the jungle all to pieces?" cried the parrot, who had never before seen an elephant. "What kind of animal are you anyway?" The little elephant said, "I don't know what kind of animal I am. I live all alone in the jungle. I dance and I kick and I call myself Suki. It's a good sounding name and it fits me, don't you think?" "Maybe," answered the parrot, "but if it does, it's the only thing that does fit you. Your ears are too big for you, and your nose is way too big for you, and your skin is much, much too big for you. It's baggy and saggy. You should call yourself Saggy Baggy." Suki sighed. His pants did look pretty wrinkled. "I'd be glad to improve myself," he said, "but I don't know how to go about it. What shall I do?" "I can't tell you. I never saw anything like you in all my life," replied the parrot. The little elephant tried to smooth out his skin. He rubbed it with his trunk. That did no good. He pulled up his pants legs, but they fell right back into dozens of wrinkles. It was very disappointing, and the parrot's saucy laugh didn't help a bit. Just then, a tiger came walking along. He was a beautiful, sleek tiger. His skin fit him like a glove. Suki rushed up to him and said, "Tiger, please tell me why your skin fits you so well. The parrot says mine is all baggy and saggy, and I do want to make it fit me like yours fits you." The tiger didn't care a fig about Suki's troubles, but he did feel flattered and important, and he did feel just a little mite hungry. "My skin always did fit," said the tiger. "Maybe it's because I take a lot of exercise. But," added the tiger, "if you don't care for exercise, I shall be delighted to nibble a few of those extra pounds of skin off for you." "Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you," cried Suki. "I love exercise. Just watch me." Suki ran until he was well beyond reach. Then he did somersaults and rolled on his back. He walked on his hind legs and he walked on his front legs. When Suki wandered down to the river to get a big drink of water, he met the parrot. The parrot laughed harder than ever. "I tried exercising," sighed the little elephant. "Now I don't know what to do." "Soak in the water the way the crocodile does," laughed the parrot. "Maybe your skin will shrink." So Suki tramped straight into the water. But before he had soaked nearly long enough to shrink his skin, a great big crocodile came swimming up, snapping his fierce jaws and looking greedily at Suki's tender ears. The little elephant clambered up the bank and ran away, feeling very discouraged. "I'd better hide in a dark place where my bags and sags and creases and wrinkles won't show," he said. By and by he found a deep, dark cave, and with a very heavy sigh he tramped inside and sat down. Suddenly he heard a fierce growling and a grumbling and snarling. He peeped out of the cave and saw a lion padding down the path. "I'm hungry," roared the lion. "I haven't had a thing to eat today, not a thing, except a thin, bony antelope and a puny monkey and a buffalo, but such a tough one, and 2 turtles, but you can't count turtles. There's nothing much to eat between those saucers they wear for clothes. I'm hungry. I could eat an elephant." And he began to pad straight towards the dark cave where the little elephant was hidden. "This is the end of me, sags, bags, wrinkles and all," thought Suki, and he let out one last trumpeting bellow. Just as he did, the jungle was filled with a terrible crashing and an awful stomping. A whole herd of great grey wrinkled elephants came charging up, and the big hungry lion jumped up in the air, turned around and ran away as fast as he could go. Suki peeped out of the cave, and all the big elephants smiled at him. Suki thought they were the most beautiful creatures he had ever seen. "I wish I looked just like you," he said. "You do," grinned the big elephants. "You're a perfectly dandy little elephant." And that made Suki so happy that he began to dance, 1, 2, 3, kick, through the jungle with all those big, brave, friendly elephants behind him. The saucy parrot watched them dance, but this time he didn't laugh, not even to himself. Yay! Look at the little baby and all his friends. I hope you'll join me for another story. Hi friends, would you like to read this book with me? It's called Joey Counts to 10. Sun glides, dark hides, and Joey wakes. "Little Joey, what can you see?" said to his mother. "One kookaburra laughing," said Joey. There's one kookaburra. Grass rustles, insects bustles, and Joey drinks. "Little Joey, what can you see?" said his mother. "2 frogs splashing," said Joey. 1, 2. Wind blows, dust flows, and Joey blinks. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 3 emus nesting, said Joey. 1, 2, 3. Clouds rush, raindrops gush, and Joey stares. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 4 crocodiles hatching, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trees quake, leaves shake, and Joey shivers. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 5 lizards climbing, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thunder crashes, lightning flashes, and Joey races. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 6 dingoes hiding, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Storm slows, rainbow glows, and Joey hops. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 7 magpies flying, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sun slides, shadows glide, and Joey scratches. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 8 possums feasting, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Light falls, night calls, and Joey sniffs. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 9 owls staring, said Joey. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Moon beams, stars gleam, and Joey sighs. Little Joey, what can you see? Said his mother. 10 kangaroos dreaming. Shh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Joey makes 10. I hope you'll join me for another story. Friends, would you like to read a book with me? Good. This one's called Mr. Grumpy by Roger Hargreaves. It was a lovely summer evening. Mr. Grumpy was at home, Crosspatch Cottage. He sat down in an armchair and picked up a book. And then, do you know what he did? He tore all the pages out of it, every one. Mr. Grumpy can't stand books. He has a shocking bad temper. In fact, he's quite the most bad-tempered person you can imagine. Grumpy by name and even more grumpy by nature. The following morning he was out in his garden pulling up flowers. He couldn't stand pretty flowers growing in his garden. When out of the corner of his eye he saw a figure. It was Mr. Happy. Good morning, said Mr. Happy. Good, said Mr. Grumpy. What's good about it? But, said Mr. Happy. But nothing, went on Mr. Grumpy. Get out of my garden. I beg your pardon, said Mr. Happy. You heard me, snapped Mr. Grumpy. Go away. I say, laughed Mr. Happy. You are a bad-tempered fellow. Humph, grunted Mr. Grumpy. And, went on Mr. Happy, bad-tempered fellows need to change their ways. Rubbish, retorted Mr. Grumpy, and he went into his cottage, deliberately stepping on Mr. Happy's foot as he passed him. Ouch, said Mr. Happy. Bang went the door of Crosspatch Cottage as Mr. Grumpy slammed it behind him. Mr. Happy stood there, looking not quite so happy as he normally does. His foot hurt, he thought, and thought, and thought some more. Then he had an idea. He smiled and went to see Mr. Tickle. Mr. Happy told Mr. Tickle of his idea and of how to get Mr. Grumpy to change his ways, and Mr. Tickle grinned the sort of grin that goes from ear to ear. That is, if you have ears, which he doesn't. Oh, he grinned, rubbing his hands at the end of those extraordinarily long arms of his together. That sounds fun. That afternoon, Mr. Grumpy went to town shopping. He walked into Mr. Meat's shop. Mr. Meat was a butcher. Give me some sausages, snapped Mr. Grumpy, and be quick about it. Poor Mr. Meat, who was frightened of Mr. Grumpy, did as he was told. But as he was doing as he was told, something appeared through his shop doorway. Do you know what it was? It was an extraordinarily long arm belonging to... Well, you can guess who it belonged to, can't you? The extraordinarily long arm of Mr. Tickles came in through the door and across the shop and up to Mr. Grumpy and tickled him. Oh, squeaked Mr. Grumpy in alarm, dropping his sausages and looking around to see what had happened. But could he see anything? He could not. Huh! Grunted Mr. Grumpy and picked up his sausages and went next door to the cake shop. Crash went the door of the shop. Give me a cake, snapped Mr. Grumpy, and hurry up. Poor Mrs. Fairy, who sold cakes, was frightened of Mr. Grumpy, so did as she was told. But as she was doing as she was told, guess what happened? Oh, squeaked Mr. Grumpy, dropping his cake and his sausages. He just could not understand what was happening. And the same thing happened at Mr. Daly's, the newspaper shop, and at Mrs. Humbug's, the sweet shop, and at Mr. Bottle's dairy, and at Mr. Packet's, the grocer's. It went on all afternoon. All afternoon Mr. Grumpy kept being tickled and dropping his shopping, and picking it up and being tickled and dropping his shopping, and picking it up and being tickled and dropping his shopping, and he just could not understand it. On his way home to Cross Patch Cottage, he met Mr. Happy again. "Hello," grinned Mr. Happy. "Having a nice day?" "Get out of my way," snapped Mr. Grumpy, "before I kick you." But almost before the words had passed his lips, that extraordinarily long arm of Mr. Tickles had appeared from behind a tree and tickled him yet again. He jumped in the air and dropped all of his shopping yet again and fell over. Mr. Happy looked down at Mr. Grumpy lying amid a jumble of sausages and cake and newspapers and sweets and milk and cornflakes. "I think," he laughed, "that if you were to change your ways and be not quite so bad-tempered quite so often, this sort of thing might not happen to you quite so often." "Huh!" grunted Mr. Grumpy. He picked up all of his shopping yet again and went home to Cross Patch Cottage. But on his way, he did think about what Mr. Happy had said, because he definitely did not like what had happened to him that afternoon. Mr. Happy and Mr. Tickle laughed and shook hands. And so, after that, he did try to be not quite so bad-tempered quite so often. And the more he tried, the less he found he was tickled. And so he tried more and more. And these days, he's quite a changed person. Why, only the other evening, he picked up a book, and do you know what? He only tore out one page. I hope you'll join me for another story. Hi friends, would you like to read this book with me? It's called The Noisy Garage. Cars honk. Motorcycles growl. Trucks rat-tat-tat-tattle. They all line up at the noisy garage. Screech pop. Got a flat? Get it fixed, just like that. Hiss! These engines are hot. Add some water. Spoosh! Now they're not. Ooh, that's quite a dent. Bam, bam, bam. Now it's only a little bent. Clink, clink, clink. Wrenches clatter on the floor. The noisy garage has just the part you're looking for. And more. Drip, 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 drop. Got a leak that just won't stop? Creak! Let's raise the hood and take a peek. The lift raises the leaky truck. Slurp! A change of oil will fix him up. Burp! Swish flap, swish flop. Broken wipers, you'll need 2. Let's clean off this mud and goo. Achoo! Spark plugs, cables, lightning flash, zap! Wake this monster from his nap. No need to squint if your lights aren't bright. Beep beep, we'll have you beaming in the night. Glug, 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 fill her up and pay. Cha-ching! The last cars zip away. Vroom! I hope you'll join me for another story.